What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over the dawn of DC for Green Lantern. And the reason why, because it does seem like we're getting a civil war in the Lantern Corps in the series down the road in the All-In initiative for DC Comics. Because right now, we're in the dawn of DC. And the dawn of DC for Green Lantern leads perfectly into the All-In initiative, but leads into that civil war coming down the road for the Green Lanterns. Now, there are a few things you need to remember before we actually dive into today's story arc. Like, for example, the whole idea that Hal is no longer part of the Green Lantern Corps. Now, there are technically two good reasons why he's no longer part of the Green Lantern Corps. But for right now, let's just go ahead and focus on the first reason, the Guardians being gone. The Guardians have left, and with them being gone, it left the door open for some new people to come in and take over as the bosses of the Green Lantern Corps. And here came this universal government called the United Planets, and their main goal is to protect the entire universe. But here comes the next problem though. They said Sector 2814 is quarantined, meaning that no lantern is allowed to go in that area at all. And the reason why, because there have been a lot of huge universal events come from that world right there, but also because that world has a ton of metas who are really able to protect that world on their own. Now, for Hal and the rest of the Earth Green Lanterns, they're very upset about the fact that they are no longer able to protect their home. But you have their bosses saying like, that's too bad. And matter of fact, we are going to reassign you to different jobs across the universe. Now, for Guy Gardner, his task is to go after Lobo. And honestly, that is a backup story we're going to cover down the road in our coverage over the dawn of DC for Green Lantern. Now, before we are able to dive into the second reason why Hal had officially left the Green Lantern Corps, I kind of want to focus on what happened to him after he had left the Green Lantern Corps, because after he had quit, he had lost his ring. Now, the only reason why he's a Green Lantern again, because as soon as he got back down to Earth, he ran into somebody who found a Manhunter armor suit. Now, the Manhunters were robots that the Guardians had used to hopefully protect the universe before they had created the Green Lantern Corps. Now, when it came to that Manhunter armor suit, it hit Hal with a ton of willpower, and Hal was able to take that willpower and turn it into a new Green Lantern ring. And so that is how he's currently a Green Lantern again, but not technically part of the Green Lantern Corps. The second reason why Hal had officially left the Green Lantern Corps is all because we had learned early on in the dawn of DC, on his last mission, something happened to Kilowog. Now, Kilowog is a fan favorite character. The Green Lantern fans out there love Kilowog, but we had learned early on in the dawn of DC that he had died, but we had no idea how he had died. And so the first chapter for today's video is really more going to show us how he had officially died. And so we start off with a flashback. Now, with this flashback, we do learn that Hal and Kilowog were assigned on a new mission together to protect Lord Tharos. Now, Lord Tharos is one of the new bosses that came in with the United Planet government. And his main goal right now is to head over to Korugar. And I really hope I pronounced that word correctly. Now, Korugar is the home world for Sinestro. And Sinestro is right now in charge of that home world. And so for Lord Tharos, his main goal is to bring that world into the fold of the United Planets to hopefully make a deal with Sinestro. And so for Hal and Kilowog, they have to protect Tharos as he tries to make this deal. Now, the meeting between Sinestro and also Lord Tharos does not go as well as Lord Tharos kind of hoping for. And the reason why, because the hatred is so strong between Hal and also Sinestro, it kind of brings the entire meeting down. Now, for Sinestro, he's also saying, hey, why in the world should I join the United Planets? Because to him, he's all like, my world is so well protected that if the Guardians were still around, they would tell you that that world right there is the most well protected world in the entire universe. Now, for Hal, he says, well, also, everyone on your world is completely scared out of their mind. And that fear feeds into you and the rest of the Yellow Lanterns. Now, for Hal, he's saying that the people on this world is so scared, they're afraid to do anything at all because if they do something wrong, they might get some severe punishment for the smallest crimes. Now, for Sinestro, he's also saying, well, hey, listen here now, you gotta have fear installed into your worlds because if you don't, that could lead to anarchy. And we have seen so many times across the entire universe, anarchy destroys governments left and right. And so you have the two guys go back and forth. But then you have Lord Tharos say, Hal, go back to the ship right now because you are technically ruining the entire meeting. Now, as you have Hal going back to the ship, he walks by three people. Now, these three people, they kind of seem like just normal people on this world. Then you realize that there could be something off about them. He's correct because those three people, they turn into Yellow Lanterns. But their main goal is to attack Lord Tharos and also Kilowog. And so this leads into a huge battle between Hal, Kilowog, fighting against these Yellow Lanterns. And right now, it kind of looks like that Sinestro had basically set this stuff up to hopefully kill off Lord Tharos. Now, while the battle goes on, you have Kilowog tell Hal, get the Lord out of here, and I'll stay behind to fight against these guys. I should be able to hold my own against them as you try to get our Lord back in the ship for protection. Now, you do have Hal being able to get Lord Tharos back to the ship, but after doing that, he wants to go help out Kilowog. Except when he gets back over to Kilowog, he realizes that his friend is struggling fighting against the three Yellow Lanterns. But before he is able to get to the battle, he realized that there's something wrong with the Yellow Power Central Battery, the battery that powers up all the Yellow Lanterns. And so he realized that the battery is about to release a huge amount of energy. It kind of seems like it's falling apart. And this is going to be very important when it comes to the rest of today's video. But either way, you didn't have the Yellow Central Power Battery release all that energy. And when it does, it vaporizes everything in the area, including Kilowog, but just knocking out Hal Jordan. But that kind of leads us back into the present day because then we pick up with Hal still talking to a character known as Razer. And really, this picks up where our last video left off at. Now, for Razer, we learned that he's a Blue Lantern. But the reason why he came to Earth is, well, to tell Hal that something happened to the Blue Power Central Battery. It has also been destroyed. And it's kind of like, wait, what do you mean? Because now Yellow's gone, and apparently so is the blue one as well. What is happening to all the different power batteries across the entire universe? Now, for Razer, he kind of tells us in a very fast pace of what happened to the Blue Power Central Battery. He tells us that one day he was just minding his business, just out there meditating. But then out of nowhere, something or someone attacked the Blue Power Central Battery, making it blow up right in front of his face and the other Blue Lantern faces as well. Now, with their battery being gone, they were no longer able to be Blue Lanterns. They were completely powerless. But while they were trying to clean up their world, they were also trying to send out a message to the Green Lantern Corps. But unfortunately, that call was never answered. But while trying to clean up, they were then attacked by some pirates. Now, for Razer, he knew the one person who could help him was Hal. And so as he snuck onto the pirate ship, he found a pod that's going to head over to Earth very soon to drop off some weapons for their fellow people on Earth. And so he was able to sneak onto that pod that went to Earth and begin his search for Hal, which of course we already know he was able to do. Now, is Razer also telling Hal that it was not just the blue central power battery that got blown up? The yellow, the red, they have also been blown up as well. And so is Razer saying somebody's out there targeting all the different central power batteries? And the question is right now, why, but also who. And so for Hal, he realized that he has to go back into space again to be a hero. But the problem is that his new ring does not allow him to go into space. For some strange reason, when he flies too far away from Earth, the ring powers off. And so it's Hal realizing that before he is able to go help out Razer and the other lanterns, he got to figure out how to make his ring work properly. Now, something else we have to remember that for Hal, he also came back to Earth to possibly start a family and try to get back with Carol. Now, unfortunately, that didn't go as planned because, well, Carol moved on and she has a fiance now. Now, we already know for Carol and Hal, their love is never going to end. So, for the last few chapters, we kind of see the two of them kind of like playing that game of will they, won't they get back together. Now, for Carol, she's kind of upset with Hal. Matter of fact, she does pull up to his home. But the reason why she's mad at him right now because after he was able to take down Sinestro, he had just disappeared and did not call her back to say that he is perfectly okay. Now, for Razer, he has heard many stories about Carol. He's like, oh, hey, that's the girl you always talk about. But then Razer realized that she's probably the reason why his ring is not working because for Hal, he does not want to leave officially, but at the same time, he knows he has to as a hero. And so once she hears those things, she's wondering, hey, are you leaving again? And he asks her, like, I won't leave if there is something for me here. Is there something for me? And she does not answer and she drives off. And so for Hal, it's kind of like he knows that she wants to be with him, but she also can't deal with the fact that he has to leave again. Now for Hal, he does know somebody who could possibly help him, and that would be Madame Xanadu. And I really hope I pronounced that name correctly. Now, for Madame, she's been around since like 1970s. I want to say 1978 to be more exact. Now, with that being said, when it comes to Madame, she's a very powerful sorceress, but she's also able to give Hal some information about his ring by telling Hal, listen, your ring is heavily connected to another source of energy here on Earth. And matter of fact, when you had battle against Sinestro, you were very close to finding the pathway to that source of energy. And so if you are able to find that source of energy, then you may be able to finally have a way off this world and then be a hero once again for the entire universe. But before she's able to explain any more information, that is when she says, we have some intruders. And that is when you have Hal, Madame, and also Razer realize that they're being attacked by some fellow Green Lanterns. Now, we do learn here that apparently Razer is a criminal on the run. And so right now, the Green Lanterns, their main goal is to bring him in to pay for the crimes that he had committed. Now, at first, they believe that Hal is one of them, a fellow Green Lantern. But then they realize that, oh, wait a second, he's not one of us. His uniform is completely different from ours. And so they say, you are also a criminal as well. And so we got to bring you in. Now for Hal, he does try his best to fight against the Green Lanterns, but he is struggling here. It's 3 against 1. And for Razer, he's powerless. And so his goal right now is just to help out what he can, like throwing rocks here and there to hopefully distract the Green Lanterns. But either way, our heroes are struggling. Now, out of nowhere, in the middle of the battle, you have the different Green Lanterns begin to change colors. So like, for example, one of the Green Lanterns turns into a yellow lantern. The other one turns into a blue lantern. It's now Hal fighting against 3 different kinds of lanterns all at once. And so, of course, he does struggle, and Razer does get taken away. Now, with Razer gone, you didn't have Madame tell Hal, like, listen, if you want to save your friend, you gotta find that power source I told you about earlier, because without that power source, you will not be able to travel across space. And so you have Hal leave to go find that power source. Now, for Hal, when he does arrive at that location of where that power source could be at, you didn't have the ground actually open up to show some kind of hole in the ground that could possibly lead Hal into that power source. And so for Hal, he's all like, I have no choice here. I have to go down there and to hopefully figure out what kind of power source down there that could possibly help me. And so as we get into the final chapter for today's video, we actually pick up with Hal going deep into this tunnel that goes deeper and deeper into the earth. Now, once he's able to actually reach the central of the earth, well, he then finds some kind of garden underneath the earth, kind of wondering what in the world is this place. But then out of nowhere, he's then confronted by Tom Kalmaku. Now, Tom is an old character. Matter of fact, his nickname was Pie Face. Now, for Tom, he used to work at Ferris Airlines as a mechanic. Now, he has been gone for a good while, if I can remember correctly, from DC Comics. And the reason why, because the man had a family by this point in DC's timeline. But either way, for Tom, you have Hal wondering, okay, Tom, why are you here? Because when I last saw you, you had a family to take care of. And Tom said that one day a guardian came into his room and said, hey, listen, you have to come here and protect this place, to be on guard until a Green Lantern will arrive. Now for Hal, he still has no idea what is exactly down here. But you have Tom say, listen, this area is well protected by the green. Now, as we all know, the green is more of like, is a type of energy that is actually connected to all plant life across the entire universe. Now, when it comes to the green, apparently it's trying to protect something in this area. And the Guardian told Tom to come here to help guard it until a lantern can arrive. And when soon as a lantern does arrive, the green will then show what it has been hiding down here for who knows how long. And so you had Tom say, with you being here, the green can now show you what it has been hiding this entire time. And then the green begins to open up and show, and that would be a green power central battery. Now, this is really huge. And the reason why, because you have Tom say that the Guardians knew that one day something could possibly happen to the Green Lanterns. And so with that, they needed a backup plan. That backup plan was the human race. Because humans are not really good at following orders, for the Guardians, they were the perfect choice to have a backup plan to bring back the Green Lanterns just in case something happens to the Green Lanterns. And so for Hal, the ring he had at the very beginning of Dawn of DC, it goes away. And the reason why, because that ring right there was just made of willpower. But down here in this area are other rings, actual rings that Hal and other people can actually wear. So now Hal has a real ring. He now has the ability to travel across space. Now, it's also Tom saying that there are enough rings down here for each member of this sector, meaning that each Earth Lantern, Guy, John, Hal, Jessica, and the list goes on. There's enough rings for all of them, but also they can make more if they add to their numbers. It's kind of like saying this area right here could be the new base of the Green Lanterns. But either way, you have Hal take a ring, powers up, and he goes into space. Now, while you have Hal trying to fly into space, that is when he is confronted by an army of Green Lanterns who are trying to bring him in. Now, like we saw earlier when it came to the other Green Lanterns, they have the ability to change their color. So now you have some Green Lanterns being Red Lanterns, and they're trying to fight against Hal. But Hal's trying his best right now to do what he can to get away from them. Now, it does lead into a moment where it does seem like Hal is going to be arrested. But then at the very last second, he is actually saved by no other than Joe Mullion, the latest Earth Green Lantern. But apparently she came here to help out Hal, but for special reasons. Now, this actually does lead into some of the backstories that happen in these books we covered. And really, we're going to cover those backstories in a separate video. But this is where we are going in today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.